Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, the FIFA 21 gameplay review. I have a notepad out here, so if I forget certain things that I didn't talk about, I do apologize, but I'm going to try to mention everything that I do want to mention. I do want to start off by saying that I don't think we'll ever really get a FIFA game that feels perfect in the eyes of everyone, obviously, but we can definitely get a game that is close enough to being a very fun game that people can play for the whole year and just enjoy the general experience. I'm not going to mention too much in regards to menu stuff for gameplay content because I've obviously made two different videos for that, so you guys already know my thoughts with that. This is strictly going to be from a gameplay perspective. We'll mention the gameplay content for certain variables of the game in regards to my general experience of having fun in the game in regards to gameplay, but other than that, those videos have already been made in their own ways. So the first thing that I have to mention, because it is a thing that is basically the focal point of this channel in regards to the last few years, is the inconsistent gameplay. So I can confirm that inconsistent gameplay is still a thing in FIFA. However, this is the first year where it doesn't feel as big of a nuisance. You know, I feel like I can actually play this game at 2, 3, 4 o'clock and still enjoy my general experience of playing it for the most part, even with the certain mechanics in the game, because the version of bad gameplay that you get during the daytime bad gameplay is actually not that bad. It is okay to play. It actually feels like a playable game, which is great because over the course of the years, I've always asked for the bare minimum of playable for me to enjoy a FIFA simulator. So I think the inclusion of new servers into the game definitely made that difference in the game because last year when I used to play on like 40, 50, 30 milliseconds of ping, it wasn't necessarily ideal. But nowadays, you know, we can get like 10, 11, 12. It is unfortunate for some of the players to still get around 40, 50, 60 ping because of the certain areas that they live in. But I'm just telling you guys what my general experience is playing the game when I am mostly on an average of 15 ping, right? So I feel like for the inconsistent gameplay part of the game, I do feel like I can actually enjoy the game for the most part in an okay manner playing through the daytime. But it definitely still is there because I've played some squad battles games, like 1 or 2, where my gameplay felt significantly better than it did in the online experience, and then some of them were just poor. And then I've had experiences playing online where, you know, at 12 o'clock at night, my game feels really, really smooth and just really nice. But like I said, even during the daytime, the gameplay still feels playable, which is a huge plus because I felt like there was never a year where I played where the bad gameplay was still in a way good gameplay, right? So it's a very important thing that I have to mention. Now, my general experience playing this game, bringing everything together, I'm going to say that I actually enjoy playing this game. I think there are variables in the game that are missing in regards to making the full experience of the game good, but I think that in a FIFA game, right, in a football simulator, the two main things that need to be good for you to enjoy the general experience of the game is good attacking AI and good finishing. And those two things in this year's game are fantastic, right? The attacking AI is brilliant. The fact that you can actually control your own attacking AI is pretty awesome. And I just love that those two things are the main things to make this game really fun to play, because attacking AI in any of the formations move in different ways that are really cool for you to figure out with the 4-3-2-1, 4-1-2-2, 4-2-3-1. So definitely a very huge fan of that with attacking AI. I do feel like this year there are more usable players. Now, obviously, there's a meta in the game, and that is definitely, you know, pace and dribbling and all that kind of stuff. But I do feel like if you wanted, let's just say, for instance, I'm an FC Porto fan, if you wanted to use Moussa Marega in your team, Moussa Marega actually looks and feels like a pretty nice card to use. I've used players like a Luis Suarez, and I feel like he feels more usable in this game. You definitely need to use him a certain way for you to be able to fully utilize a card because he's not full meta, obviously, but he still feels fun to use. The variable that I'm going to bring up in regards to gameplay content in the game is that you're still not going to want to use these types of players, even if it is a Luis Suarez or a Harry Kane, because they don't have the right balance in regards to game modes. And I feel like that is something that EA needs to look at in regards to making the general experience of the game better. But obviously, that was its own separate video. Just wanted to mention it from a gameplay point of view, because the way that the game is still formatted right now, you're still going to want to use the most meta players, even if it's like the cheaper versions of them, like Porto and stuff, for you to enjoy the general experience of playing the game. Now, That being said, with all the main stuff being good, there are bad things in the game that I do want to mention as well. Manual tackles in this game from regular tackles, not necessarily from slide tackles, but the manual tackles are not good enough in this game. They're not possession based. Most of the times, and that's very frustrating because there's a lot of times where you'll overcommit your defender or your midfielder on 3 or 4 separate occasions for one play, and the opponent still gets the ball in certain ways that he shouldn't. Possession-based tackles are a very, very important thing for football simulators to cause less of a random feature in the game where you can actually feel like you're defending like a monster, and it just gives you this sense of satisfaction when you do get the ball from predicting the right areas in regards to middle, left, or right, wherever the opponent's going to exit. I think that's very important. In this year's game, there are skill moves that I'm not going to necessarily say that they're overpowered, but I feel like EA don't have good enough defensive animation so that when you do predict the exit of a skill move, right? Like let's just say, for instance, he wants to do an elastico, so he goes from right to left. You should be able to predict that left side of that elastico. If you overcommit to the right side and you overcommit to that right side and he exits to the left, that's fine. But when you know he's going to exit to the left side, it needs to be a huge variable in this game for you to be able to get the possession-based tackle, right? Because it's very strange with skill moves in FIFA because you use skill moves to add this sort of momentum on your players for them to get into positions quickly, right? Like for instance, if you were to use the elastico or the reverse elastico or the heel to heel, you use them because regular dribbling isn't really the go-to in FIFA. In FIFA, it's more ideal for this year's game to use skill moves to accelerate essentially into the spaces really quickly. So it is something that I have to add to my gameplay. It's not necessarily something that I enjoy for a football simulator because I feel like the base concept of dribbling and passing, I feel like those two things should be the main things in regards to passing and defense. But with skill moves, it's just weird that you use them to not use the skill move naturally, like in Elastico in real life when Ronaldinho and Ronaldo used to use it against people. They would do it when they were face to face with the defender, and then they would go to the right in the initial skill move and then exit to the left, and then it would fake out the opposition, especially if he didn't defend well enough, right? So it's not really being used in a way where it makes sense to use in certain position. It's just being used in a way where it's because it's effective to get into certain spaces instead of just dribbling the ball, which is a little bit weird, right? The team press tactic in this game is a little bit overpowered. It's a very strange variable with team press in this game because I feel like with team press in FIFA, it is their version of kind of countering people who are possession hoarders, right? Who want to hold on to the ball, score that one goal, and then not move that much anymore. So I understand why they have the variable of team press in the game because now it's like a circle thing where, you actually run out of it at some point. But I don't really think that team press is the solution to possession hoarding. I think a more tuned version of second man press, I feel like that'll be the ideal situation for you to be able to show your skill in defending when someone wants to possession hoard. But it is what it is in regards to team press in the game. It's a very overpowered thing because it actually kind of breaks your attacking AI in a way because your attacking AI doesn't always register where they should move when someone's actually using the team press against them. So it's a variable that it needs to be adjusted a little bit, I would say, but it makes sense why they have it in the game to have their own version of, defending against people that want a possession hoard once they score those 1 or 2 goals, which just isn't fun because FIFA should always be a back and forth game. I will say that I don't like how the game is very counter-attacking oriented. I do think that if a person has really, really defensive tactics or whatnot, everybody to come back in defense, with the midfielders or the attackers, I really feel like it should completely drain the stamina as much as possible because when you add that variable to the game, it actually promotes a back and forth version of FIFA where the opponent himself just needs to be good at manually defending when given certain situations, and the person who is attacking in certain situations is just a back and forth thing. Like if he's using possession based a little bit, but you have a good variable with second man press, then it would just add a cool variable to skill in the game. In regards to passing, I think the weight of the passes are good. I think that they are inconsistent though. Not the power of the passes, but the direction of the passes. Sometimes you'll make a really regular pass and it is completely wayward, even with players that have like 80 short passing and 75 long passing, which is good enough for players that are literally right next to you when you're facing certain angles. It's very strange because when you use the L3, R3 attacking AI movement, it actually feels like those types of players, when they're being controlled by the CPU, make better passes when you actually ask for the pass, right? So it should definitely be more rewarded in the sense where if you're using the manual passing yourself when you're actually controlling the player, I feel like that would make more sense. The player switching in the game is awful with the right stick. With the L1, it's not bad with the L1 or LB, but the right stick switching is definitely not ideal yet either. There's too many opportunities that I have conceded because I don't know whether or not to use the L1 or the right stick because of how inconsistent it is, and I feel like it's very important to fix the right stick switching as much as possible. So right now I'm kind of adjusting my defensive style to use the L1 more because the right stick is just very inconsistent. Like sometimes when you press the right stick, it doesn't even switch to anybody or it switches to the completely wrong player. So it should always be like this natural feeling every single time, right? Pulling goalkeepers in this game, very inconsistent as well. I feel like the goalkeepers are incredibly stupid when they're trying to grab a ball in the air when they should just grab it easily, and when they're punching the ball out, or if the person is one-on-one against you and you have a goalie that you are specifically pulling out, they don't respond well to the ball being in their general vicinity. Sometimes they kind of just like the ball through. It's kind of like a glitch. They should be able to at least be able to kick the ball out. You should be able to manually use the goalkeeper at that very moment to control it and pass the ball out, or anything but your goalie just doing this thing where he kind of tracks a player like that. Very strange. There's also been some instances where I've chipped a goalkeeper and he has his hand out outside the 18-yard box, which obviously should never be the case. The goalie animations need to be better when a goalie is pushed out of the 18-yard box because that is a handball and it should be a handball, but the goalie saves it. Like it should kind of be like he should save the ball with his arm kind of facing this way, and you can kind of like chip it over him because, like I said, 1v1 finishing is a thing that's important in the game for it to be fun and for it to be skill-based, because the whole point of attacking really well and finding that space to finish, it should be rewarded at the end of the play. So really, really cool. Again, like I said, with the attacking and finishing being as they are. But the one thing that I feel like needs to be nerfed is that one particular assisted cross that's really overpowered right now, where when they whip the ball into the 18-yard box, the cross itself looks very unnatural, but the first time shots in regards to how they hit specific angles, it just looks completely wrong and it's completely overpowered, and I feel like it's going to definitely be used a lot during the weekend league, so you're going to have to set up some defensive tactics to block with your fullbacks as much as possible. But yeah, that specific cross that I think it was FIFA Analyst that showed on his Twitter account, that one I think needs to be nerfed. But the ones where you're inside the 18-yard box where you can just do a regular cross across to the player if you have him on getting to the box on the top sides, I think that's perfectly fine. As long as you block the general middle area really well with your defensive players manually, I feel like for the most part you can block those situations as much as possible. I feel like that's pretty much it in regards to everything. I have acceleration from defenders. I don't know why I put acceleration from defenders. I feel like that's like a different thing. But yeah, I think the main problems with the game, honestly, is goalies being weird in certain situations, manual tackles just not being good enough. I don't like that they kept some of the old animations from the previous FIFA in this FIFA, because those animations are garbage, because they still do this thing this year where when you receive possession of the ball, your player emphasizes in the opposite direction, making it very easy for the attacking players to get the ball and then shoot the opportunity. You need to be able to get the ball, and even if he drags it to the opposite side, it shouldn't be with that much emphasis. Like, ugh, and then the ball's like so far and they could just get the ball back. I feel like it needs to be possession-based. Okay, if they go in the opposite direction because you're holding that with your left stick, at least it's possession-based and the ball's at your foot, so that you can, avoid these like RNG aspects of the game, right? But like I said, the general experience of playing this game is fun. It would have been even better if they actually made better game modes in the game, especially that tournament mode, to basically use these gameplay cards, because, man, I'm telling you guys, it was actually very interesting how when I was using some FC Porto players, I'm like, wow, they're they actually feel usable in their own ways. Like I was using like Corona, Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz. I was using. Who else was I using? I was using. Nowadays, they're going to get even better players. Like Felipe Anderson is going to go there. In the right back position, you could put like Corona, even though he's a right man, you could put him there. Manafal looks cool. Like they're just usable cards, but they just not used the way that they should be in that tournament mode because of the way that the game is formatted. I've already mentioned this in the videos. Playing in Division 1 constantly is not necessarily an ideal way of playing the game. And even if you're in Division 5, 6, 4, that shouldn't be the only option to play. The tournament mode would have created a really good balance, especially with how the gameplay currently is. I think the game is honestly like a patch or two away from being good if they, patch certain areas that need to be patched. And I don't think anything necessarily needs to be buffed unless it's the attacking or the defensive tackles when you're manually using the guy. When you're not using the guy and a person scores against you when you're in front of the goal, don't necessarily mind that, because in this year's game, defensive AI will still make those blocks for you if the shot is in the vicinity. But as long as you work a better angle, you can score the opportunity. So my general experience from playing this game has been a good one. It's just stressful because I really wish it had that online tournament mode so that I can have a balance of playing my Division 1 games and then doing objectives and stuff through the tournament mode, especially since the gameplay is much more enjoyable because of the finishing and the attacking AI. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.